Here's the hard truth. 97% of men over 50 fail to notice when a woman is flirting. Not because you've lost your edge, but because the rules have changed. Attraction now hides inside questions that sound like small talk but are actually testing you. And if you don't pass, she disappears before you even realize she was interested. In this video, I'll reveal 7 questions women ask when they're quietly hitting on you, and how to turn each one into a moment that makes her want to stay. Some men will swear a woman has to be obvious for it to count as flirting. Others know the truth, that the real invitations are subtle, and if you can't read them, you lose before you even start. So tell me, which side are you on? Drop your answer in the comments, subscribe, and hit like if you want to sharpen this skill. I read every comment because the split between these two mindsets is exactly where most men lose their chance. In a second, I'm going to walk you through the first of 7 questions that quietly separate the ones who get it from the ones who don't. Number 1. How old are you really? If a woman looks you in the eye and says, "How old are you really?" she's not asking for a number. She's not doing mental math to guess your birth year, and she's not curious about the candles on your next birthday cake. She already knows you're not 30. What she's really asking is this: how comfortable are you in your own skin? Do you wear your age like a burden or like a badge? Here's the truth most men over 50 never hear. A woman's interest at this stage of life has very little to do with whether you can pass for younger. She's scanning for aliveness. She wants to know if you're still fully present in your own life, or if you've quietly stepped off the field and started watching from the bleachers. And here's where so many men blow it. They flinch, they deflect, they make some self-deprecating joke about being over the hill. Sure, she might laugh politely, but inside, the spark dies a little. Why? Because you just told her, without meaning to, that you're apologizing for the years you've lived. The men who stand out aren't chasing youth. They're the ones who have made peace with their timeline. They can say, without blinking, old enough to know what matters, young enough to enjoy the ride, or with a slow grin, "You want my age or my attitude?" I'll give you 2 stories, one of loss, one of presence. Harold, 64, divorced, silver hair, sharp dresser, was talking to a smart, classy woman in her late 40s. She leaned in and asked, "How old are you really?" He thought he was being clever and shot back, "Too old for you." She laughed, but not in the way he hoped. The warmth drained from her eyes. He didn't just dodge the question, he dodged the moment, and she felt it. Then there's Lawrence. Same age bracket, same silver hair. A woman asked him the exact same thing. He smiled, held her gaze, and said, "Old enough to know a good thing when I see it. Young enough to still chase it if I want to." Her smile deepened. The conversation lingered. The door stayed open. Psychologically, here's what's happening. As we age, we carry more history, more scars, more quiet fears that maybe we're not seen anymore. Women sense that energy instantly. When she asks about your age, she's not taking inventory. She's asking if you're still alive in here. If you meet her question with confidence, you tell her it's safe to keep going. But if you answer with self-doubt, the door closes, softly, quietly, and permanently. She'll walk away thinking you're a nice guy, but not that guy. So the next time you hear, "How old are you really?" don't reach for the punchline. Don't turn it into a game of dodgeball. Treat it like the invitation it is. Look her in the eye. Answer in a way that owns your age, your story, and your presence. Because here's the reality. If she's asking, she's already considering maybe. And your answer will tell her if that maybe turns into something more, or if she files you away as another man who doesn't realize the door just swung open. If you flinch, the door closes. If you own it, she steps closer. Number 2. Why aren't you married? When a woman asks, "Why aren't you married?" it can feel like she's poking into your personal history, maybe even passing judgment. But if you read between the lines, that's not what's happening. She's not sitting there with a checklist, waiting for the wrong answer. She's quietly checking something far more important. Are you emotionally available right now? Is there space in your life and in your heart for someone like her? At this stage of life, women don't throw their hearts around carelessly. If she's been through her own share of heartbreak, she won't just dive in without first testing the waters. This question is her way of dipping a toe in, seeing if the temperature is right before she steps closer. Here's the trap most men walk right into. Some launch into their full romantic resume, divorces, custody arrangements, all the should've, could've, would've stories that turn a light, flirty moment into a heavy therapy session. Others get defensive, hiding behind bitterness. Tried it once, never again. Or, marriage is a trap. Both of those answers do the exact same thing. They shut the door she just cracked open, because she's not looking for your war stories or your cynicism. She's scanning for your peace. She wants to know if you've made peace with your past, or if you're still dragging it behind you like a suitcase you never bothered to unpack. Let me paint the picture. Ethan, 63. A quiet man who works with his hands, lost his wife young. One afternoon at the community garden, he struck up a conversation with a woman whose smile lit up the air between them. After a while, she tilted her head and asked softly, "So how come a man like you isn't married?" He froze, gave a stiff answer about things not working out, and quickly changed the subject. A week later, she stopped showing up. Ethan didn't realize she wasn't just being polite, she was wondering about them. And his answer told her no, even though that's not what he meant. Now let's flip the script. Martin, 64, same age bracket, same weathered charm, was asked the exact same question. He smiled, took a breath and said, "Life kept me busy, but I've got space now for something real." It wasn't a performance. It was grounded, clear, and warm. She didn't pull back. She leaned in. Psychologically, here's what's happening. When a woman asks this, she's feeling something but doesn't want to risk laying her heart bare unless you show her it's safe. If your answer carries bitterness, she retreats. If it carries calm openness, she moves closer. So the next time someone asks, "Why aren't you married?" remember, you're not on trial. She's not grading you. She's looking for a reason to keep talking, to stay curious, to see if she fits into your life. Keep it short. Keep it honest. Let it carry a note of possibility. Because she's not looking for your past. She's looking for your peace. And if you can show her that, a simple, well-placed answer might turn what feels like a casual question into the beginning of something you never saw coming. Number 3. Do you date younger women? When she leans back, gives you that half smile and asks, "Do you date younger women?" Don't be fooled. This is not about your dating resume, and it's not a trap designed to corner you. It's something much more personal. She's asking, "Do I have a chance with you?" This question isn't really about age. It's about how you see connection. Do you view women as numbers on a calendar, or as living, breathing individuals who bring something unique into your life? Here's where so many men trip over themselves. One camp puffs up and brags, "Oh yeah, I've dated plenty of women in their 30s. They think they're impressing her, but all they're doing is broadcasting that she's about to be compared to someone younger. The other camp waves the white flag. "I'm way too old for you," shutting the door before she even decides if she wants to walk through it. Both answers miss the point, because she's not asking you to recount your dating history. She's testing your receptivity. She wants to feel seen, not sorted into a category. She wants to know if the connection between you right now matters more to you than the number on her birth certificate. Let me give you 2 moments that prove the difference. Daniel, 59, charismatic, always dressed sharp, was at his favorite little bookstore when he met a woman in her mid-40s. Bright eyes, quick wit. She asked him for a book recommendation, and before long, they were sharing coffee at the cafe across the street. Then she tilted her head and said, "Do you usually date younger women?" Daniel didn't hesitate. He smiled and said, "I don't date by age. I date by energy and connection." She didn't just smile politely. Her eyes warmed. That coffee turned into dinner. That dinner turned into something much more. Now picture Owen, 62, same kind of opportunity, different reaction. A woman at a wine tasting, maybe late 40s, asked him the exact same thing. He laughed nervously and said, "I'm probably too old for you." She smiled, but the spark dimmed. She finished her glass, thanked him, and drifted away. Door closed. Psychologically, when a woman asks this question, she's giving herself permission to explore the possibility without having to be the first to declare interest. It's a safe, indirect way for her to find out if you might see her as more than a friend. The best answer? One that keeps the focus on the present moment, on her and on the chemistry you're building right now. Something like, "I care more about how a woman makes me feel than when she was born." Or, "I'm interested in people who bring good energy into my life, no matter their age." At our age, attraction isn't about chasing a number. It's about recognizing an opening when it appears and knowing how to walk through it without tripping over your ego. When you respond with clarity, kindness, and just enough spark, you tell her it's safe to lean in. Because here's the truth. It's not about her birth year. It's about the moment you're in. And if you can hold that moment with presence instead of defensiveness, you turn a casual question into an open door. One she'll be more than willing to step through. Number 4. What kind of woman do you usually go for? When she asks, "What kind of woman do you usually go for?" It sounds like small talk, like she's just curious about your type. But trust me, this isn't idle conversation. This is self-comparison in disguise. She's quietly asking herself, "Do I fit into the picture he's already built in his mind?" This is what psychologists call self-selection. She's measuring herself against whatever you're about to say. And here's where a lot of men lose their shot without even realizing it. The mistake? Taking the question literally and rattling off a laundry list. "Oh, I like tall brunettes, athletic, into golf." As if you're placing an order at a restaurant. What she hears is that you're chasing an idealized image that probably stopped making sense 20 years ago, and that she's either in or out before she even gets the chance to show you who she is. The truth is, she's not looking for a checklist. She's looking for an opening. She wants to know if you're stuck on appearances or if you've evolved enough to value connection over cosmetics. Let me give you an example. Arthur, 62, a retired firefighter, met Claire through a volunteer project painting homes for low-income families. They worked side by side for hours, laughter and conversation flowing effortlessly. At one point, while they were both leaning against a fence to take a break, she asked, "So, what kind of woman do you usually go for?" Without overthinking it, Arthur said, "I like women who are thoughtful, curious, someone who can laugh with me even on a tough day." Notice what he didn't say. Hair color, dress size, or any detail she couldn't possibly change. He focused on qualities she could see in herself if she was interested in him. And she was. That afternoon, she stayed behind to help clean up. When he thanked her, she smiled and said quietly, "I was hoping I was your type." Now let's flip the coin. Patrick, 65, was asked the same question by a woman over dinner. He answered with a grin, "I've always gone for blondes who keep fit and can cook." She laughed, but it wasn't the warm kind. The conversation cooled, and by dessert, she was glancing at her phone more than at him. Psychologically, your answer tells her whether she should lean in or lean out. If you lock yourself into a rigid picture, she'll assume you're still chasing an outdated fantasy. If you describe the emotional connection you value, she can start to picture herself in it. So here's your move. When she asks what kind of woman you usually go for, speak to the traits that actually sustain a relationship, the qualities that matter when the novelty fades. "I like women who make the space around them feel lighter." Or, "I'm drawn to women who have depth but still know how to play." Remember, she's not asking for a friend. She's asking because she hopes the answer points right back at her. And if you can give her an answer that makes her think, "Maybe I am his type," you've just planted a seed she won't forget. Describe the connection, not the checklist. That's how you turn a casual question into an unspoken invitation to explore what's possible. Number 5. Are you always this charming? When she tilts her head, gives you that sly little smile, and says, "Are you always this charming?" Don't make the rookie mistake of thinking it's just a compliment. This is attraction peeking through the curtain, testing whether you can hold the moment without fumbling it. Most men don't realize it, but this question is a feminine way of taking things from friendly to flirtatious without having to risk a blatant move. She's offering you an open door, and she's watching to see if you'll walk through it or slam it shut with awkwardness. Here's the catch. Plenty of men get this wrong. They deflect with humor. Only on Tuesdays, or they shrug it off like it means nothing. And just like that, the spark she offered you fizzles out. You think you're being humble, but what she hears is, "I can't hold this energy with you." The key here is presence, staying in the moment, meeting her warmth with your own, and letting her see that you're comfortable here. Let's look at 2 moments. Frank, 64, a soft-spoken widower, met Julia at a friend's dinner party. They'd been chatting about old movies and favorite books when she leaned in just a little closer and asked, "Are you always this charming? Or is it just tonight?" Frank didn't break eye contact. He smiled gently and said, "Only when I'm around someone who makes me feel like myself." Julia's expression shifted. Her eyes lingered on his just a moment longer, and from that point on, the conversation had a different current running beneath it. Now, contrast that with David, 61, who got the same question from a woman at an art gallery. He laughed and replied, "Guess I'm just having a good day." She smiled politely, but the moment was gone. They finished the small talk, and she moved on to the next exhibit. Here's what's really going on. This is not about your charm as some objective trait. It's about whether you can receive a woman's interest without shrinking from it or turning it into a joke. Women, especially in midlife, don't often hand you these little escalations. And when they do, they're not looking for you to prove yourself. They're looking to see if you can stay with them in that energy. So when she asks, "Are you always this charming?" try something light but grounded. "I try to save it for moments that matter," or "only when the company's worth it." What you're signaling is, "I see you, I'm here, and I'm not afraid of this dance we're in." That makes her feel safe to keep playing along. Because in the end, she's not just talking about charm. She's testing if you can hold the moment. And if you can, you've just shifted the tone from casual conversation to something electric, without either of you having to say it out loud. Number 6. Why don't you have a girlfriend? On the surface, this sounds like a harmless, almost nosy question. But if you've been around long enough, you should know, women don't ask this just to pass the time. When she asks, "Why don't you have a girlfriend?" what she's really doing is probing, quietly, carefully, to see if there's room in your life and maybe in your heart for someone like her. It's a safe risk question. She's not confessing attraction outright, but she's throwing out a line to see if you'll catch it. And unfortunately, many men cut that line before it ever pulls them closer. The most common mistake? Closing the door in her face without realizing it. Men answer with things like, "I like my freedom," or "Relationships are too much drama at this stage." Some even joke, "No one can put up with me." You might think you're being witty, but what she hears is, "I'm not available." And here's the truth. She's not just asking if you're single. She's asking if you're open, if your emotional door is unlocked. Let's break it down with 2 examples. Richard, 65, a sharp dresser with the calm confidence of a man who knows who he is, was at a local art gallery when he met Diane. They wandered the exhibits together, talking about travel, music, and a few bad paintings. Then, in a softer tone, she asked, "So why don't you have a girlfriend?" Richard looked her straight in the eye and said, "I've been busy learning how to be a better man. Now I'm ready for a better kind of love." She didn't look away. In fact, Her gaze stayed on him for the rest of the night. Now compare that to Greg, 62, who was asked the same question by a woman he met at a wine tasting. He laughed and replied, "Too set in my ways." The conversation limped along for another 5 minutes before she excused herself to say hi to a friend. Psychologically, this question is her way of taking a step toward you without risking the embarrassment of being turned down directly. But if you answer in a way that feels closed off or bitter, she'll retreat before either of you get close enough to see what might be there. The right move? Keep it honest, light, and hopeful. "I guess I've been waiting for something that feels unexpected," or "I've taken my time, but I'm still open to being surprised." The message you're sending is, yes, there's space here, and maybe you're the reason I'm saving it. Don't give her a reason to walk away. Give her a reason to lean in, because if she's asking, it means she's already wondering what it would feel like to stand closer to you. And all you have to do is keep the door open long enough for her to find out. Number 7. Would you ever date someone like me? This is it. The closest thing to a confession you're going to get without her spelling it out in neon letters. When a woman asks, "Would you ever date someone like me?" she's not fishing for compliments, and she's not making a joke. She's putting herself on the line, even if she wraps it in humor or says it with a casual shrug. Underneath, there's vulnerability, because this time, she's not talking about women like her. She's talking about her. Here's why this moment is so delicate. It takes courage for a woman to ask this, especially later in life. She's risking rejection in the most personal way possible. And yet, most men blow it, not because they mean to, but because they panic. They say things like, "I don't know, maybe," or they deflect with humor. "You couldn't handle me." What she hears in that moment is hesitation, uncertainty, or worse, that you don't feel the same. The right move here isn't cleverness, it's clarity. Take Robert, 63, a retired Navy officer. He met Ellen through mutual friends, and over months, they'd built a slow, steady connection. One evening, walking together as the sun dipped behind the trees, she stopped, looked at him, and asked quietly, "Would you ever date someone like me?" Robert didn't rush. He held her gaze for a few seconds and said, "I think I'd be a fool not to." That was it. No over-explaining, no nervous laugh, just truth. And in that silence that followed, something shifted. She reached for his hand, and they kept walking. Now let's look at the other side. James, 64, got the same question from a woman over coffee. He froze, gave a half smile, and said, "I'm not sure. I haven't thought about it." She nodded, changed the subject, and within minutes the warmth between them cooled. The opportunity was gone. Psychologically, this question is the final test, not in a manipulative way, but in a deeply human one. She's saying, "I'm wondering if I'm still wanted, still seen, still capable of stirring something in a man like you." Your job is to meet that courage with something real. Even something simple like, "I'd be lucky if I could," can carry more weight than a dozen flowery lines. Because when she asks this, she's not looking for a script. She's looking for a moment, one that makes her feel beautiful, safe, and recognized without her having to beg for it. And if you can give her that, you've just turned a question into a memory she'll replay every time she thinks about you. She's not asking about women like her, she's asking about her. Answer that, and you'll be surprised how close she's willing to stand. You've just seen how attraction after 50 doesn't come dressed in obvious signals. There are no flashing signs, no loud declarations. Instead, it slips in quietly, wrapped in casual words, subtle glances, and small openings that can close just as quickly as they appear. These 7 questions, they're not random, they're not small talk. They are doors. Doors she opens carefully, just wide enough for you to notice, and if you miss them, they close without a sound. The truth is, you don't need to chase anymore. You don't need to play games or rehearse clever lines. You've already lived enough life to know what matters. What you need now is awareness, to recognize the exact moment when someone sees something in you, and to have the presence to step through that open door. Because when you do, everything changes. She leans in, her tone softens. The conversation stops feeling like polite chatter and starts feeling like connection. That's when attraction stops being a guessing game and becomes something real. But here's the warning. These moments don't wait. If you hesitate, if you hide behind self-deprecation or deflection, the door will close. And most of the time, it won't open again. So the next time you hear one of these questions, or you notice her holding your gaze a second too long, don't overthink. Don't retreat into old patterns. Stay present. Respond like a man who knows who he is. You don't need perfect lines. You need presence. And when you bring that, she'll bring the rest. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 questions have you heard before without realizing what they really meant? Or maybe you've had a moment you now see differently after watching this. Share it in the comments below. I read everyone, and it shows me how many of you are waking up to the moments that used to slip by unnoticed. If this message resonated with you, subscribe so you never miss another conversation like this. The more you engage, the more we can keep building a space where men like you can learn, sharpen, and step fully into the connections you deserve. Because you have more life ahead of you than behind you, and she can see that in you if you let her.